Here's a great question that came in from Ashrack12. And it was, I have a question about soldiers in the 18th century. You have so many good recipes and the way that they cooked their rations. How did they carry all that cookware and the seasonings and the food? What were the normal spices that they had? In the first season, you mentioned one meal would be good with a bay leaf and another with cinnamon for the pumpkin. Did they actually have these spices too? They seemed that they would be expensive for a normal sailor. And did they actually have time to cook the foods when it was in time of war? There's a lot of great questions here, and some of this we kind of covered in that first season and some other videos where we did do outside cooking. But let's kind of hit these questions in a row here. How did they carry all that cookware and seasonings and food? The cookware is an interesting thing. Sometimes their equipment would be on baggage wagons if they're moving during a campaign. And they would have that stuff in the baggage wagon. But that would be trouble. If they got separated from their baggage, then they wouldn't be able to cook their food. And so at different times in the war, they actually suggested that the men carry all their cookware so that they would be able to cook on the march. And in Joseph Plum Martin's book, you actually have a couple of sections of text where he's talking about having to carry the heavy cookware and being disgusted with it and sometimes throwing it out and because it was cast iron and it was too heavy. Or at other times it had food in it and he got tired of carrying it and he put it down and other people picked it up and stole the food out of it and then passed the empty pan back up to him. So there's a lot of interesting thing about cookware. I would imagine that most of the time they did carry it, but they had very little cookware. So many times the soldiers were issued sort of a mess kit, one pot and the different kinds of utensils inside that and with a cover. And we do sell the tin cook pot and the cover that works exactly in that same way so that soldiers can have that same kind of outfit. Carrying your food, they had haversacks, which was actually meant to be a food bag. So they would carry their food sometimes if it was already cooked. They would carry it in the pot, or uncooked food, they would carry it in their haversack. What were the normal spices that they had? If you read in Joseph Plum Martin's book, he's always complaining about not having sauce, and he means really kind of things to go along with his meat. Very rarely did they have spices. Even salt was in great demand at times. So, I suggested that adding the spices would be a good thing. But in the time period, and with the soldiers in the 18th century, they probably very rarely had access to spices. And the last little question here is, did they have time to cook the foods? And again, in Joseph Plum Martin's book, he actually references the time when they were given their rations of pork, salt pork, and some people were so tired and disgusted that they didn't want to cook it. They just ate it raw. So there's a lot of great stuff. If you want more information and you want something, a time period sort of text that you really get the feel of soldier food, I really suggest looking up that Joseph Plum Martin book. It's one of the books that we have available on our website.